We've got a very special guest, Darran Lees. He and his colleague DT, they run a fantastic American football podcast called Third and Footlong. It airs on this station 104.6 or on Planet Audio live 7 p.m. every Monday. And I've spoken to Darran. He's actually a good sense of humour, passionate about American sports, and passionate about American culture. And he's got a lovely English accent. G'day, Darran. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Eamon. Thanks for having us on the show.
Yeah, good. Wow. We head into playoffs now, man. There's been some hell of good games out there, you know. From the time I get to have a look at them, there's some results, but I'm just looking at the game starting tomorrow, and of course the big one in the AFC, Denver Broncos versus Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, that's a huge game. The number one seed Broncos playing for the first time in the playoffs because they get the bye week. We're finishing the number one seed. Josh Allen for the Bills. Of course, everyone's saying it's this year or never for him because obviously there's no Patrick Mahomes, there's no Joe Burrow, there's no Lamar Jackson, there's no Aaron Rodgers. So the pathway for Josh Allen is really clear to try and win the Super Bowl. But going into Denver, where they play at high altitude, they won't be worried about the cold in Buffalo because, of course, they play in really cold conditions up in Buffalo. But obviously at high altitude in Denver, the real key to this game is how long can Denver keep Josh Allen off the field. It really is going to be about time of possession. The more time they give Josh Allen, the more chance they give the Buffalo Bills of winning. Last year, this game actually happened in the wild card round, and Buffalo did away with Denver 31-7, so there's a lot to prove for the Broncos this year. They're a much improved team. It's going to be really close. It's not the best matchup for the Broncos. They don't play tight ends well. Buffalo have two great tight ends in Kincaid and Knox, so it's going to be tight. There's probably not going to be much more than 3 to 7 points in it either way.
Yeah, and you know, I've probably got a real soft spot for Buffalo because they went to so many Super Bowls and didn't win. It would be lovely to see them make one. Love to see them win because remember who was their great quarterback? It was John Kelly, was it?
Jim Kelly.
Kelly, yeah. So that's going to be interesting. In the NFC, Seattle Seahawks versus the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, well, this has got extra spice because, of course, they're divisional rivals as well. So they play each other multiple times in the regular season. And not only 2 weeks ago did we see this game already when both teams had a shot at the number one seed. The Seahawks completely shut down the 49ers offense. But will it be the same this time around? The Seahawks are heavily favoured, but their quarterback, Sam Darnold, apparently carrying an injury from training, so that could make all the difference. The 49ers, I can't see they're going to let the Seahawks get away with what they did 2 weeks ago. But the 49ers have been so banged up with injuries this season. Kyle Shanahan's done a remarkable job to even have them in the playoffs, never mind a shot of the number one seed. The interesting part, the Seahawks have not lost a home playoff game where they've had fans in the stadium, not including the COVID year, for 20 years. So this is a huge mountain for the 49ers to climb. But if Darnold's injured and they can find a way to get past that Seahawks defense, then they've got a chance. Of course, the Super Bowl's in San Francisco. It would be a home Super Bowl for them if they got there.
Wow, that is very, very interesting. Of course, then we go on to the Monday games, and the AFC, New England Patriots versus the Texans.
Yeah, well, of course, a lot's been made of the Patriots this year, and a lot's been made of their soft schedule, and are they only doing as well because of their schedule? But at the end of the day, you've still got to beat the teams in front of you. And remarkably, of one of those 3 losses that the Patriots lost, they lost to the Raiders, who are actually going to be picking number one in the draft. So it's never as easy as people think to just beat, because a lot of the NFL games are decided by less than a touchdown. So it's sort of, this is going to be a potentially really low-scoring game. 2 highly fired-up defenses. Last week, the Texans brushed aside the Steelers. But C.J. Stroud, the Texans quarterback, fumbled the ball 5 times. Like, you're not going to get away with fumbling the ball 5 times against the number 2 seed Patriots and think that you're going to win the game. So the Texans' offense is probably the biggest concern in this. They've got arguably the best defense. They've definitely got the best defense in the AFC, probably just ahead of Denver. And arguably in the old NFC, it'll be them on Seattle. This is a real prove-it game for the Patriots. This will be probably the first real tough test they've gone up against for quite some time. Can Drake May in his second season is obviously heavily touted for the MVP. So it's going to be a real testing game for the Patriots. This could probably be the lowest scoring game of the weekend. So, yeah, it's going to be probably the hardest fourth game.
Yeah, that looks like a cracker. And, of course, then one of my favourite teams, the Chicago Bears versus the Los Angeles Rams. Now that's in Chicago on the mistake on the lake, as they call it, Soldier Field. But, you know, Chicago, they haven't been up there for a while there, Darren.
No, it's been a very long time since they've been in this position. This is going to be probably the highest scoring game of the weekend at a guess. You've got 2 offenses that can put points on the board, but 2 defenses that at times can let a lot of points through. Obviously, last week we saw the Bears completely shut down the Packers in the second half. The Packers just completely went to pieces in that game. The Rams with the favourite for the MVP, Matthew Stafford, at quarterback. This is going to be incredibly cold. This could be one of the coldest NFL games played. They're expecting it to be incredibly cold in Chicago. Caleb Williams, this is another proving game for him. He has the worst completion rate of any quarterback in the NFL in the regular season. Obviously, they've also got the most comebacks of any team in the last 2 minutes in NFL history. They're one of those teams that start really slowly and then they kind of grind people down, and then in that fourth quarter they come alive. Obviously, they scored 25 points in the fourth quarter last week against Green Bay. But you can't afford to start slowly against the Rams because they put 21-28 up pretty quickly and the game's done. So this is interesting. Sean McVay, the coach of the Rams, is going for his 10th win before his 40th birthday in playoffs. The next best all-time is 5. So, you know, he's incredibly smart. He's one of the best coaches in the league. Ben Johnson, first head coaching job with the Bears, has done a fantastic job. And when we did our preseason picks, I picked Ben Johnson as potentially coach of the year if he could turn the Bears around. This is going to be such a close game. The Rams are favoured by the bookmakers, but the Bears at home in cold weather, pretty hard to look past them.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at this, you know, we've got a few more games before the big one, the Super Bowl. Who from the outside looking in, who are you picking as the favourite to take it out?
Look, at the moment, the Seahawks are probably seen as the favourites because of that defence. They've got that home field advantage while they stay in. People are kind of looking at the Broncos and they're going, you know, they've won all these games, but they've been very close. They've had to come from behind. Can they do it? Josh Allen, you know, I wouldn't be surprised to see a Seattle-Buffalo final, and I would see Seattle winning that battle.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we've got a bit of college football on Tuesday, Indiana versus Miami.
Yeah, this is going to be fascinating. There's so many links here between the two teams. You know, Kurt Signetti, who's come in and done an outstanding job in Indiana. Obviously, a former coach in the Nick Saban tree. Used to play, I think, with Mario Cristobal, the Miami coach. Fernando Mendoza, who is the Indiana quarterback, is originally from Miami. So, and the game is in Miami. So Miami are the first team to play for a national championship in their home stadium. So it'd be interested to see if the home advantage works for them. However, at the moment, tickets are going for $3,500 to $5,000 US. which is almost Super Bowl level prices. So,
oh my God!
I mean, look, Miami are 7-1 at home, but that Indiana offense is absolutely unbelievable. Fernando Mendoza, obviously the Heisman Trophy winner, in the last 2 games has had more touchdowns than incomplete passes, which is completely unheard of. Carson Beck, the Miami quarterback, for the first time is playing for a national championship. He's won 2 before, but he was a backup quarterback in Georgia, so it's his moment to try and win in his own right. Indiana's such a mistake-free team. Like last week, Oregon made 2 or 3 mistakes, and before you knew it, it was 35-3 or something like that. The game was over. This Indiana team can absolutely blow you out. They're looking to be the first team to have a 16-win season in FBS history. Indiana very heavily favoured by about 8.5 points at the moment. The Miami defense has got to shut down Mendoza if they're going to win this game. If they don't shut down Mendoza, this game will be over by halftime.
Absolutely, and of course, probably the most famous person to come out of Miami colours, and you may laugh when I say that, Dwayne Johnson.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, they've got a huge following, the Miami U. And then of course Indiana, you know, they've been a losing team. I think they're the second highest losing team in college football history, but they have now got some huge financial backing behind them. Of course, the college now with the NIL and transfer portal, to me, I think it's kind of spoiled college football a little bit. But now if teams have got money, it doesn't matter what your history is. As we've seen, the SEC for many years has been the powerhouse conference. This year and last year, the SEC were nowhere to be seen. So money has certainly changed it. Mark Cuban, the guy that used to own the Dallas Mavericks, multi-billionaire, huge investor into the Indiana Hoosiers now. So Kurt Signetti, if he hangs around, he could probably win 2 or 3 championships at Indiana. Of course, he's going to lose Mendoza next year because he's going to go to the draft, and he's probably going to go number 1 to the Raiders.
Absolutely. Well, Darran, thank you so much. You obviously looking forward to the show on Monday. I want to find out more about these smash burgers you and DT were talking about and where I can grab a free one from. But really, thank you so much. That was brilliant, mate.
Look, thank you very much. And look, the show is on at 6:30. We've got an hour show now because we're in the meat of the season. That's so good. But yeah, if you go to our socials, we're doing all sorts of stuff like food, NFL, college. And look, we really appreciate the time, Eamon, this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Mate, don't worry, mate. This will not be the last time you're on this show, mate.
Thank you very much indeed. Have a great rest of the show.
And yeah, you too, Darran, and thanks so much for your time. Cheers, mate.